This is what we've come to on this channel. This right now. First, my DSLR broke about 6 months ago, and I refused to get it fixed because I am too poor to get it fixed. And then, just yesterday, the audio on my iPhone 6 camera stopped working, so now I sound like I'm underwater every time I film. So now, in the year of our Lord 2K18 on this beautiful Tuesday evening, I am filming on my webcam. Like this is 2010. But I can't say I'm not committed to the art of BookTube. Really, there's not much art in my BookTube. I should say the diligence of BookTube. I'm diligent about, but not artful. I'm really failing comparatively. Everyone's videos look so pretty and mine are, well, they're crappy. Anyway, I've read a lot of interesting books recently, and I wanted to talk about them, and I'm also about to go to BookNet Fest. I wanted to vlog that, but it looks like that's not going to happen since my phone doesn't work. So let's make this video instead and see if I can scrounge together some video for BookNet Fest. I read 4 books recently, and I'm going to talk about them. The first book that I read recently is Wild Like Me by Louise Pentland. Louise Pentland, also known as Sprinkle of Glitter here on YouTube, wrote this book in 2017. It is a women's fiction novel about a woman named Robin Wilde. She's a single mother of a 7-year-old daughter. She is separated from her husband, or her, I guess not her husband, her baby daddy, and she is a makeup artist. This book is very much what you would expect from Sprinkle of Glitter, Louise Pentland. Not in terms of the writing, because I do think it's an above-average YouTuber book, but I think that it's very much her. She's a single mother, well, not anymore, but she was a single mother for a time, and she has a daughter the same age as the daughter in this book. She knows a lot about makeup. All those things come together to write this book that is feels very much like Sprinkle of Glitter. Holy crap, I'm not even good at words. Bad words. Okay. This book does some things very well and does some things very poorly. The things that it does well are the things that you'd expect it to do well at, which are the things that Louise Pentland knows about. She writes about motherhood in a way that feels very genuine, as she is a mother. She writes about depression in an interesting way. She writes about being a makeup artist in a way that probably is true to life. These things I don't know a lot about, except for depression. But she writes about it in a way that you go, okay, I get it. Like, you've experienced these things, so it's cool. She writes in a very open-hearted way. It's a very open-hearted book. So I think those things are done very well. And it's also kind of a surprising book. Spoiler alert for Wild Like Me. Robin Wilde does not end up with doesn't end up with a man at the end of this book. She ends up alone and happy. And I really like that. A lot of books that are centered around women in this genre, the woman ends up with a man, and I enjoy that too, or ends up with a person, but most likely a man. I enjoy that too, but it was really interesting to see how that doesn't happen in this book. There are a lot of chances for Louise Pentland to redeem male characters who suck, and she doesn't, and I think that's cool. I enjoyed it. I thought it was well done in that way. Things I thought were done poorly. It was very clunky writing. It was kind of boring at parts. The characters kind of ran together to an extent. These things I think would get better over time. And also there are a couple problematic things in the fact there is some kind of normalization of body type, which is interesting because Louise Pentland is very body positive, but the character of Robin Wilde often describes herself as a nice normal size, whatever that means. So that wasn't great, but overall it wasn't that bad of a book, so I'm not completely disappointed. I think I'll pick up the sequel. I'm not super compelled to, but I'm curious to see if the writing, especially, gets better. The next book I'm going to talk about is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. Everyone has talked about this book. It kind of made the rounds a while ago, and I missed it because I always miss everything. The Hating Game is a romance book, a contemporary romance, about 2 people who are assistants to opposing CEOs who are like working at the same company. Basically, these 2 publishing houses had to merge, and there are 2 CEOs and they're the assistants of the 2. If you've seen the movie Set It Up, it's similar in the fact that they're assistants to CEOs. Other than that, not that similar. It's a hate-to-love romance. They hate each other. as the title suggests, and they fall in love. I really liked this book. I thought it was super fun. It was just enjoyable to read. It made me happy. The romance was really great. It was a soft romance. The characters communicated fairly well. I enjoyed that it felt like they really knew each other. Although I think insta-love can be kind of fun, I like the fact that this wasn't insta-love. They seemed like they genuinely knew each other very well, and I enjoyed that. So I thought that was done super well. As Whitney from Witty Novels mentioned in a video that she did a while back about this book, there are some moments where the characters just say some things that are supposed to be funny, and they're not funny. Hopefully that doesn't happen in Sally Thorne's other books, but that definitely soured the book a little bit. There's also moments of jealousy that were kind of weird. But in general, the romance was really nice. It was healthy. It seemed healthy enough. And I enjoyed the softness of it all. Okay, the next book I read was Where Am I Now by Mara Wilson. This is a memoir by Mara Wilson. Mara Wilson is an actor. She was a child actor. She played Matilda in the Matilda movie from the 90s. She was also in Mrs. Doubtfire and Miracle on 34th Street. You probably know who she is. And this is a memoir of her life. I listened to it on an audiobook. It took me a really long time to get through it, and I don't really know why, but I really, really enjoyed it. The book is very honest. It's very real. She talks about everything from, meeting all these celebrities when she's young to navigating relationships to going to college, to her mother's passing. It's very funny in a way that I think is interesting and really smart and really introspective in an honest way. I think memoirs sometimes aren't actually that introspective. It still kind of feels like the person writing it is, putting on a persona. But I didn't feel that way. It felt like she was really looking deeply into herself and at her experiences. I really liked it. She wasn't afraid to call herself out, which I thought was cool. My two favorite things about this book that I related to the most was her chapters on OCD. As someone who's had OCD her whole life, I felt that. And also her chapters on writing and being a writer. That was something I did quite intensely when I was in high school. I would put writing into competitions. I was really excited about all of it. And over time I sort of got distracted by other things and had some things in my life happen where writing felt kind of scary to me. And as someone who wrote a lot of personal essays, much like Mara Wilson does as a storyteller, it just made me more inspired to do that again. So I really like that. Finally, the last book I'm going to talk about is Startup by Dori Shaffir. Oh, this book. Startup is an adult fiction novel about 4 people. One is a journalist at a tech magazine. One is a journalist's boss. The journalist is boss, the editor of that tech magazine. It's not a magazine, it's like a website, like Mashable. One of them is a CEO of a startup, a new startup, and one of them is both an employee of that CEO and also married to the editor of the tech magazine website thing. So they're all interconnected. It's basically explores startups in New York City and these interconnected lives. Specifically, this book tries to tackle the Me Too movement in terms of tech. And I think it doesn't do it super well. It takes an instance that's fairly nuanced, and I think it really goes way too... It doesn't unpack it enough. I wish it did, because it takes the validity away from what happens in the book by not unpacking it enough, and that bothered me quite a lot. Also, all the characters are really dislikable, and not in a way that's interesting, in a way where you're like, I'm bored and I dislike you, which is the worst combination for characters to be, but that was true for every single character in this book. I was both bored by them and I disliked them. I didn't enjoy this book. I thought it was clunky and boring and too heavy on descriptions. I got a lot of really good reviews, like in the New York Times and all of those kind of fancy magazines, but to be honest, I don't think it's really worth the time or the money or the library credits to pick this book up. I just read it and I was like, this is so mediocre, and then I finished it, and I was like, I hate this. It's a book that was so mediocre that by the end I just hated it. Because if a book is really bad, at least you can enjoy the fact that there's something like really just kind of like a little jarring about it. this was just so bland and also boring and not unpacked enough that I just hated it by the end. So yeah, those are the 4 books I've read recently. I am currently reading Meet Cute, and I'm also listening to Priest Daddy by Patricia Lockwood, and I'm enjoying both of those quite a lot. So that is my wrap up. I'm sorry that you had to endure this lovely setup, and also my words being screwy. But this is that channel. This is what this channel is. Bad editing, bad filming, screwy words. That's my elevator pitch for you to get off the elevator. Bye.